Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 2 of Conversations in Pop Culture, where I have with me Justin Del Rio, who runs the Nerds of Wrestling Facebook group. That has about 6,000 plus members in it, and
Yeah,
it's a pretty large group on Facebook for wrestling. There's a lot of stuff that's going on with it, and so obviously a lot's going on with you, and you're sort of the first wrestling podcaster that I'm doing on this entire thing. And I know for those who watch and who are accustomed to who I do, this is a little bit of a step outside, but we get to do this every once in a while. So welcome to the show.
Andrew, thank you so much for having me, bro. It's a huge honor. I love your show. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, no, I am stoked to have you on because obviously we spoke before that wasn't really recorded. We've interacted before, and obviously I'm part of your Facebook group,
Yep.
and I do want to talk about that and
Yeah.
wrestling and obviously have more of a fan's perspective. But I am curious how you got into wrestling as a fan and when you came in and what era you came in, because everybody comes in a different way. People leave and then they come back, and so I'm curious on all of that.
Yeah, so growing up watching wrestling, I started watching around the Ruthless Aggression era, which I feel like was a very popular time for people my age, especially, because those are the wrestlers like John Cena, Randy Orton, Batista, all those wrestlers coming in from OVW back in the day, just really making a huge name for themselves in the WWE. One day I went to Walmart with my grandma and my brother. My grandma told me, my brother, that we could get one thing that was $20. I'm like, bet. I'm gonna get in a movie. So I was looking through the DVD section. I couldn't really find anything, and I stumbled across WrestleMania 22, and I'm like, huh, this looks really cool. So I was like, okay, well, John Cena's on it. I know John Cena because my friends talk about him all the time at school. So I'm like, I want to get this. I asked my grandma. She's like, sure, I guess, whatever. Like, okay. And then after watching that, man, I was hooked. I feel like a lot of people, including myself, do go on a bit of a hiatus. I just stopped watching wrestling around 2009 until like 2012, and then I got back into it.
So to even talk about that, because obviously being a kid, I came in high school in 2005, the Unforgiven feud, all the way through that. So I sort of caught, I guess, the tail end of the Ruthless Aggression when they were starting to shift to the PG era, but it really wasn't PG. It was a weird era. I don't know what we call that era in wrestling, but I guess it's the tail end of Ruthless Aggression.
Yeah,
And
I feel like it is.
and so I came in that way, and I came in ninth grade. So I missed all of like the early stuff in WWE and even WCW. So I know exactly though how you get hooked, and I also took a hiatus. But what was that like as a kid, just watching it and just getting involved and being hooked onto it? Because it is very much in wrestling right now, where I feel their practice, they get a lot of kids hooked, and
Yeah.
then kids grow out of it but some remain like us did.
I mean, growing up as a kid, watching it is the same way. Not the same way I feel now. It's completely different than I feel right now. But as a kid watching it, bro, you're just it's like these larger than life characters like telling a story every week and doing their thing and just wrestling. And of course, I thought all of it was, legit. But growing up, I realized it was not. I still don't think it's fake. I still think it is very real. And but yeah, bro, words can't explain how amazing it was just watching it as a fan, especially when I was like 12.
Because for me, when I was 12 and when I was 13, when I was 16, I'm like, man, this is awesome. This is athleticism.
Yep.
They're doing crazy shit in the ring. There's real stakes in this. That gold looks real. There's pyro. It looks clean. Like good wrestling looks good wrestling. A
Yes.
John Cena match looks good, and maybe I can't think of an undercard guy at the time. It's been that long, but there weren't good matches in WWE just the same. But that entire thing, and I wasn't a mark, and I wasn't indoctrinated the way I am, and now I know so much about the industry, and so that's why I asked, because obviously going back, and to sometimes I do wish I could just go back and say, hey, I can suspend everything that I know now
Right.
because when I was watching WrestleMania 22 on the DVD, I'm like, man, that was the WrestleMania John Cena versus Triple H, and
Yep.
Triple H was supposed to be the bad guy, and he was like being cheered, right? Like
Yep.
it's like I'm like, man, this is awesome. It's like a comic book, and now they can't do that match because I know way too much about it. And so that's why I bring this up, talking about our childhood, because I think it's similar to mine. Yours and mine are similar. So what is that like now that you are involved in the industry as a smarter fan and also as a part of the gear chain of everything with running the Facebook group and doing a podcast and also just watching a lot more wrestling?
I mean, I feel the same. I don't feel the same as I did when I was 12 because, like you mentioned before, like I feel like you brought it in a good point where we're 12 years old. We don't know all this stuff that's going on. We don't
We're
understand the.
stupid and we're uneducated as wrestling
Yep.
fans. We know who the good guy is. We know the bad guy. We know when things are, oh, we just said a bad word type moment.
Right, right.
And we go,
But
oh, this is intense. But we don't know every little inner politicking and every little ref code and every little thing that actually goes behind a match that we know now as being older.
I like to still think of myself as like a 12-year-old boy who just loves wrestling. I mean, it's cool to know all this stuff. It's cool to be like, hey, I know, what goes into a match, what's supposed to happen, what's not supposed to happen. There's a botch. Like 12-year-old me, I didn't even know what the term botch was. I'm like, what's a botch? Like, what does that mean? I definitely didn't know the term mark when I was 12 or 11 because I'm like, so I think the first time I ever heard the term mark, I was like 18. Someone called me a mark. I'm like, what? What is that? What the hell does that mean? Now I know. And yes, I am a mark. So, but yeah, Andrew, just watching wrestling, especially now, I just say
Because
I try to feel the same as I was when I was like 12.
for me, and I was speaking with Derek Neal, who was New South last night, and when he turned on Adam Priest at the New South, Haas tournament,
Right.
essentially, it was what it's known. I didn't expect that heel turn to happen then, and I was pleasantly surprised. And so every once in a while, we know when things are going to happen. It was easily predictable with MJF and Cody Rhodes when MJF was going to turn. We
Right.
all saw that coming from miles out. I could say blood and guts. I didn't see MJF pushing Chris Jericho off of that cage. I didn't see that one coming.
I love
Okay.
that.
I thought it was brilliant, but I didn't see it coming. And I don't think certain other people didn't see it coming either. And obviously it pushes, even when MJF, after Brody Lee died, and MJF went after, his kid. And obviously, for those who don't know, I'm sure that was cleared beforehand.
Of
I'm
course. Yeah.
pretty sure it was, but even still, that was a very, very surprising moment. And so, but now, given that I'm in the industry and that I do a lot of wrestlers and you do a lot of wrestlers, you're in a Facebook group, like, how do you separate those two? Because it is complicated now, and it definitely affects my vision of wrestling and how I view it, because I view it through a different lens. And it's hard to separate it.
I mean, I mean, you got to know what's real and like what's actually happening. Like on the TV screen. I don't really know how to answer that question. I'm really bad at explaining stuff sometimes, so I'm sorry. Yeah.
So how do you feel? I'll ask it a different way.
There you
How
go.
do you feel that now that you get to speak to wrestlers, like I speak to wrestlers, I now understand both baby faces, heels, guys who are just brawlers and just want their belt, and I'm now more indoctrinated in, and so now I understand more, and I have a greater appreciation. But I also understand, okay, this goes deeper and deeper, and I know the good stuff about wrestling, and I know the bad stuff about wrestling, and it definitely creates a very interesting perspective because it changes the way you view something versus somebody who says, hey, I'm just a wrestling fan, and I'm not speaking to wrestlers beyond just at a show. And so what is that like for you now that you are doing a lot of stuff with What's Up Wrestler? And obviously I'm doing a lot of stuff for my show. Obviously it changes because we
Yep.
now know wrestlers. We actually have personal connections with wrestlers. And it's a very weird thing when that starts happening.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's very cool. If to be honest, like to know, like, hey, I have a connection with some wrestlers. Hey, I know what's going on, kind of behind the scenes. Uh, but in my opinion, it's just very cool to have those type of connections. If you know what I mean.
And then every once in a while, and you've interviewed people, AG, and that's how we're going to refer to AG, and not
Yep.
the Attorney General. I want to make that clear. AG is a different AG. But one of the things is that obviously I've done people who are in WWE. I got to do Tegan Knox before he
Nice.
came over to WWE. I've done Chris Daniels and Kazarian, and then AG, Josh. I'm not going to say, and then a few other people. Leva Bates is another one that I've done a while back. And so obviously seeing these people now on the big stage, that's also really weird for me because I don't know about you, but I'm not a large podcast by any stretch of the imagination. I
Right.
don't rake in the top 100. I
Neither
don't
do
know
I.
if you do, but the fact that I'm getting big names and getting people who are getting attention, it's crazy because while I think I'm a good interviewer, I know I'm not a superstar interviewer, and I'm getting top talent and people who are going on to big companies. And so it's very, very humbling. And it's also really, really cool to understand saying, oh, wow, I interviewed that person twice or three
Right.
times. And now they're on a much larger stage. How did this happen? And that also changes your perspective, and not even on wrestling, but just on life.
So I want to bring up like a point that you just made. Like it's so before I started my whole podcast and Nerds of Wrestling, I've been going to shows for a long time. So I'm gonna name two people right off the bat. AG and Christian Casanova, who are both now signed to WWE. I knew them both very well. I knew AG since like 2012, so he knew who I was. Christian Casanova, the same thing. I've been supporting him since 2014, 2015, and it's all about the character you bring to them, like the fan. Like if you're respectful, if you're nice, you're cool, you talk to them, you support them, they'll support you. So before I started this whole Nerds of Wrestling and What's Up Wrestler, they both know who I was and they both know what I was starting. So when I asked them, hey, do you want to be on the show? Before they were signed, they're like, hell yeah, bro, let's do it. So it's all about how you are beforehand, before you do this podcast, and that character you bring out.
Yeah, for me, it's very interesting because I catch people before they become big. I caught Effie before he became big, and I just reached out. I was very pleasant. I go in with the attitude saying,
Right.
hey, and I don't mean to, it's going to come off a little assholey, but I'm like, great, I'm going to ask. I ask very politely, but I'm okay with a no. And,
Yeah.
and and when I come in with a no, it doesn't change me as a fan. I get it because I get people's time is swamped. I
Right.
understand that, and I'm still very respectful. And funny story about Effie is that Effie was wrestling on Butch vs. Gore, and Effie knows exactly who I am because I gave him a legitimately great interview over a phone, and we spoke about a lot of crazy stuff, and we went into the entire LGBTQ gay wrestling, and we actually dove into stuff and talking about what it's like down south. And it's a very intense interview, and it was a lot of fun. But I actually did my homework, and that also helps tremendously as
Right.
well when you actually know who you're interviewing and you're not just doing a generic interview. And so that also helps, and it's just a matter. And then what wound up happening, and why I curry favors is I actually sponsored him, and we didn't tell the promoters what we were doing.
Oh.
So I sponsored him. They knew I was the sponsor, but they didn't know he was coming out wearing my shirt
Oh
at the
shit.
store. And me and him knew on it. I had a feeling Lolo and Gator from Primetime Pro Wrestling. I know everybody's an adult in the room. They can deal with that, how they choose. I like to think that we like promotions and shit happens in wrestling sometimes. We've seen that this year, pretty hard, pretty
Oh yeah.
hard. So obviously he's wearing my shirt, and that also is cool because I sponsored him, and obviously the promoters thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. Effie thought it was funny. But it's that idea of even how you present ideas to people as well. It's all
Right.
about how you act in many ways to
Hundred
so.
percent. No, I definitely agree with that, bro. And I love that story about Effie. That's amazing that you like Effie. Effie's one of my favorite wrestlers, and I gotta know, like that whole interview. I know you touched base on a lot of stuff. How else was that? How did it go overall?
Oh, it was a lot of fun, and we need to redo it. But instead, this time we're just going to talk about cranberry. But that's a different discussion.
Cranberry.
For those who don't know, Effie's dog is named Cranberry.
Okay.
That it's not sexual. I want to make that perfectly clear. That's the MV Young podcast After Dark. But I could make that joke. I didn't do MV yet. I'm making that crystal clear here. But even this idea that that interview was amazing and it was a lot of fun. And the only reason why I got to do that interview was because I just asked and I did my homework on it,
Right.
and I took my time, and it's a great interview. And also, I catch people before they become big. I'm not interested in people when they become big anymore. If I can get a big name, that's great. Don't think that, if I could do Leva again, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
Right. But it's much harder to get AEW and WWE stars. It is impossible to get WWE stars. It is very difficult to get AEW stars. It's difficult to get Impact stars. And I know, because I know a bunch of people that have tried, and going through press is a pain in the ass.
Like 100%. I never tried it, but like it's like crazy.
I've given up on WWE because I am not big enough. Maybe AEW could possibly work depending on who it is and where they're at, and what tier they're on. But it is super complicated. And then I've tried Impact, and I reached out to Impact's front office because I was trying to get somebody. I'm not going to say who because I don't want to put them into a bad spot. They're like, oh, reach out to the front office. And if they say yes, I'll say yes. I reach out to the front office. I get no response back. And so I will try again at some point, but I'm also saying to myself, like, yeah, this is kind of what happens, because I would imagine there's a bunch of requests, and it's just like, it's unfortunate. But then again, you go to a place like Beyond, and those indie wrestlers, all of them are their own bookers, essentially. Right. And so it's the path of least resistance for me.
I never tried to go like to WWE, Impact, or AEW because I know what you have to do. You got to go through their promoter, like their bookers and the front office and everything. Honestly, in my opinion, Andrew, it's like all of that will happen in due time. I just interview who I can, and I'm not saying they're no names. Like there's some like legit names like who you could get, like who you don't have to go to, which is amazing.
I mean, I don't have a problem booking people.
Right.
Honestly, at this point, I'm interviewing whoever I want to interview when I want to interview them, and I've gotten big names because people come in and out of WWE all the time, and they have a revolving door.
Right.
And so I am curious, and AEW doesn't have a revolving door at the moment, but we know it's coming. I mean, we know it's coming, where they're too young to have a revolving door, but WWE has a revolving door. They release, Kurt Hawkins, but then they bring in, I can't think of who they just signed. Instead, there's a bunch of big names that just got signed. Essentially, they bring back Eve Marie, right?
Oh God, yeah, yep.
So this is the revolving door, and then what is they I can't think of somebody else who they brought back, but obviously it's pretty easy to figure out, that they bring in a new class every 6 to 9 months
around there. It's crazy the amount of people they sign. And I'm not yawning at you. I just had a long day at work, so don't worry. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. And then so it's super complicated in that regard. And then also I want to talk about AEW because obviously things are getting interesting with AEW, very much so, with them expanding in August.
Crazy.
And then they have Mondays, Tuesdays on YouTube, expanding in now and moving from TNT to TBS.
That's what I heard. I don't know the whole story on that. Like I've read like they're gonna do like 2 hours or something, like an hour on TNT or something. I don't know.
I heard they're doing a Friday night show at like 10 p.m., which is interesting, but no offense, but I'm not watching wrestling on a Friday at 10 p.m. it's not my Friday activity. Um,
Same. I don't even watch it at 8. I don't even watch SmackDown.
exactly, and honestly, I'd rather watch the Indies.
Yeah,
In so many
100%.
ways. Because I think while AEW is, in my opinion, better than WWE right now, I know exactly what I'm getting with WWE. Every single pay-per-view, I know exactly what I'm getting. With AEW, I don't know what I'm getting. And that I feel like that's the biggest fault of AEW is that some stuff can be really, really well done with it, and other stuff misses. And I'm curious how you view that. With WWE, I know I'm getting like a B plus pay per view every single time or better. While there's not much growth per se, where it's not going to be a stellar pay per view, or it can be, but I know that it's
Yeah.
not going to be a C minus.
A lot of the WWE right now is like you as you said B plus to the most. I don't know if you watched the recent pay per view. What was it? WWE Backlash.
I was actually
Well,
building an interview, and I really didn't want to watch it, and I need a vacation from wrestling. WrestleMania wiped me out. That week wiped me out.
you didn't miss anything on WWE Backlash. I mean, so like the two matches that were very good were Cesaro versus Roman and the triple threat. I want to say. Uh, but honestly, I mean that I honestly give that show just like a B, no B plus, no B minus, just a flat out B. Uh, WWE right now, I'm sure you agree with me. It's very stale.
It's stagnant. There's not much growth.
Nope.
There's not much. I'll watch Raw maybe once every 2 months, and I'll watch their pay per views. That's what I typically stay up to date. Is that I'll watch their pay per views and then I'll watch the complete highlight because they recap the entire feud right before the match anyway.
100%. So I don't. So let me ask you a question. I know you're interviewing me. I want to ask you something. Think back to your 12-year-old self where you're like, oh, I never missed Monday Night Raw. I never missed SmackDown. And how old are you now?
I'm 28, so
Okay.
we're talking 16 years.
So you're 28 now. I'm 26. So we're around the same age. If you were to tell me at 12 years old that at 26 you will miss a year and a half worth of Raw, I would have been like, you're nuts. I have not watched Monday Night Raw in over a year and a half. I do not want to sit down for 3 hours and watch Raw with a bunch of computer screens. Hopefully, when it goes back to an actual audience, I'll start watching again. But Andrew, I have not watched an episode
I
of
haven't
Raw
watched
in a
Raw in
year.
like 4 years. I just moved back to my parents' house
Nice.
because of COVID and to save money, right? So I gave up Sling in my apartment. So I cut cable, got Sling. Then I was watching Impact, and Impact was pretty good. Not gonna lie, I enjoyed Impact, and I enjoyed it watching it on Twitch because I would get hammered and watch Impact every
There you
week and
go.
every before I unwind. Fantastic. I'd be tweeting. Half of my tweets would be me intoxicated, possibly some of my best work on Twitter. But anyhow, this is what and I was in a lot less wrestling fights on Twitter at that point too. So who knew? Alcohol maybe tames my position a little bit. But I'm really not in giving good advice right now. But I digress. But then after that, I cut Sling because I just wanted to say I'll watch Netflix.
Right.
And then I got IWTV, and I'm like, this is much better than 90% out there. I would watch a lot of Beyond. I then got into Limitless, and then I watch a bunch of stuff because almost every Friday, every single weekend at 8 o'clock, they'd have a show on live.
Yeah,
And
it's
I'm like,
insane.
this is awesome. This is fantastic. And then you get Camp Leapfrog, and like, I'm like, why do I want to watch Raw when legitly I can go and watch IWTV and find something on that, or watch Netflix, or I just got Peacock and I'm watching Law and Order. Like, honestly, so much better. And this is because I was speaking with Airborne Alex Anthony. And one of the things that we were speaking about is that I feel like wrestling, and part of the reason why it's stale, is it's lacking that big fight feel. When John Cena challenged AJ and said, I'm John Cena, and I'm challenging you for this title because I'm John Cena, that felt like a big fight between AJ Styles and John Cena. Or when John Cena comes back and he's having that silent war with Roman, he says, I'm a part-timer and I'm doing it better than you are as a full-timer. Like, now we got a big fight feel. We actually have something that means something. And like, at least Roman versus Cesaro felt from what I heard, like a big fight.
Like I said, it was a great match, and I love how you brought Cena and Styles and Cena and Roman. John's like I said, John Cena. Growing up, I love Cena, and I loved his work with AJ Styles. Like holy shit, like. But you could put anybody against Cena, and as much as people hate to admit, Cena was one of the is if not one of the best wrestlers of all time. He's a fantastic wrestler. He's not 16-time champion for no reason.
And to even talk about that, because obviously I think part of the reason also why WWE is stale is that that company was built around John Cena for 14, 15 years. Undeniably. Before that, it was built around The Rock. It was built around Stone Cold Steve Austin, partially around Triple H as well. During 1999 to about 2004, I would say that that's a
Yeah.
fair position. Obviously, Stone Cold, The Rock were probably also in the gear chain there. And so obviously now WWE doesn't have a pillar. They have key players on their bench like Randy Orton, but but you don't have I don't know who else is on their bench that's a better, maybe Seth Rollins, maybe Roman, but
Rey
you don't have
Mysterio's up there too.
Mysterio, and there's probably a few others. AJ Styles you could probably put in there as a key gear is what I like to think, because I like to think WWE has a gear system essentially. You need all clogs to move forward to make it work. The Miz probably also is a key player in that company without a doubt, but there's no one guy, and that's also part of I feel the problem is that not saying put all your eggs in one basket, but you need the guy who's the face of your company.
Right.
You can't tell me who's the face of WWE right now.
I feel like they're aiming towards Roman Reigns, but like I feel like I know you keep up with it. Roman Reigns is a heel, but there's no top baby face for the company, and which is okay, which is fine. They're trying something new. I like it. Roman Reigns is the guy. Roman Reigns is the top heel and the top guy for the company right now. So I love what they're doing with Roman Reigns. By the way, I know this is a little off topic, but damn, he's so much better as a heel than he is a face. Like, give me more of Roman as a heel. It's so good.
Oh, no. I think it's smart. I think that he's not your traditional heel though. He is more of an anti-hero heel
Yeah.
versus straight up heel. Like he's not a Randy Orton, I'm gonna punt Vince in the head heel.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
No. But you get what I'm saying, where he's like, I want my respect, and you're gonna give it to me, or I'm gonna beat it into you. That is, he's being a bad guy, but he's earning it in a lot of ways. So it's very much an anti-hero heel, where he's not 100% heel. And I think it's very interesting because I think that that's what people want. If we look at television right now, there's a lot of characters like that on television. And there's been a bunch of characters like that where they're not perfect. And Roman has some heroistic characteristics into him, but he's also a bad guy. He's obviously aligned. He's going to do tacky, underhand tactics. And I think it adds something to it. And I think that's the only thing that's keeping WWE sort of having fresh water coming into their stream a little bit.
I 100% agree with that. 100%.
And so I just think it's super interesting versus what AEW is doing with Kenny Omega, and they're taking a very different route. Where Kenny is a heel, but Kenny is not a pure heel. Kenny is doing what being the elite is, and
Yes.
then that he's doing his thing with a little bit of shadiness attached to it, but not over the top. And people still like Kenny Omega, and still people want to cheer for Kenny Omega versus booing Roman Reigns.
Right, no. I mean, can you imagine like 6 years ago as like babyface Reigns and you hated him, like you're gonna love him 6 years later? Like,
It's
no,
crazy.
it's nuts. Like if you were to tell me in 2015 that in 2021 you're gonna love Roman Reigns, I would have been it's like, sure, sure. I
I
love Roman.
enjoyed I enjoyed Roman Reigns in the Shield. I enjoyed the Shield tremendously, and
So
it Yeah.
18-year-old me, I hated the Shield. I'm sorry. 18-year-old me, I hated the Shield. I fucking couldn't stand them. This was when my knowledge of wrestling wasn't all the way there. Like I still didn't like grasp like, a heel, a bad guy, like X, Y, and Z, like why heels are so great. But looking back, oh my god, the Shield was fantastic. Like god damn, I was like, shit, why did I have that? I wish I had the mindset I have now back in the day, like we talked about earlier.
See. This is why wrestling is so different for me because now I understand what's put into it. Like I love a guy like Aaron Rourke. Like I don't know if you know who Aaron Rourke is, but Aaron Rourke beat Solo. He beat somebody at Blitzkrieg, and he's beating baby faces and loved people who are loved in territories. And I'm like, this guy is golden. I mean, you know Alec Price.
Of
Alec
course.
Price is brilliant. And then I make the joke every time he wrestles and he gets booed. I say, guys, keep on booing him because he's going to leave soon and be signed, and then you're not going to have to boo him anymore. And he always likes that tweet. He retweets that tweet a lot because guess what? It's a dig a little bit, but it's a true dig. And so that I'm curious on that with you is that because now we're starting to see people having first matches with wrestlers, having amazing starts to feuds, and then leaving. The indie scene. I mean, look at Alec Price and Christian Casanova. Don't tell me that couldn't have gone for 6, 7, 3 fucking years. If both of them are in WWE and they don't book the a massive feud with them in NXT, that's a waste of talent between the two of them.
When I saw that promo with Alec Price after his match at in the dojo at Limitless and Casanova challenged him, I'm like, oh my god, I never knew I wanted that until now. Like holy shit, give me more of that because you're so right. Like I wish we seen Casanova versus Alec Price more times, and they absolutely killed it in that singles match, and they did their thing in that fatal 4-way for the title. Holy shit, phenomenal! Like you said, if both of them when Alec Price gets signed to the WWE, they gotta put Casanova and him in the ring together because golden.
I mean, it's crazy because obviously obviously there's more than one company that's going to gut it, but I don't know if WWE's pulling out of Ohio much as of lately. I think they're pulling a lot out of New England as
It's
of.
nuts. It is crazy the amount of people they pulled out of New England, dude. It's insane.
I mean, it is a very, very crazy circumstance. And I'm sure they're pulling people out of Cali. I'm sure they're pulling people out of other places. I don't know where, Blake Christian and Alex Zane were from and Atlanta Black were from. I think they're more in Chicago,
I think
all
they're
three of
from
them.
yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah, I
So,
think
so, so
Florida.
obviously, WWE's pulling from all over the world. But as of lately, I mean, they've got it limitless, they've got it beyond. And what's crazy about both of those promotions is that they're like cool, and then they build new stars up, which is a crazy situation. So, how do you feel about that? Because it used to be that WWE built stars, and now the indies are almost the feeding system. It's almost like AAA baseball, where you basically the whole point of your single A, double A, and triple A is so that you gut players up into the major leagues and you
Right.
develop them. But that's what NXT is in a lot of ways. And then there's level one of NXT, level two, and level three of NXT.
Yeah, it's like you said, dude. It's crazy to think like how back in the day WWE. Well, we got to realize too, like all these other wrestlers who came to WWE back in the day, they came from somewhere. We didn't know what the indies were. Now that we have the mindset and the knowledge of what the indies are, it's crazy to see how the whole business works. Like WWE signs 200 people from the indies, and out of those 200 people, 30 of them make it. And if that, 10 of them will main event on the main roster, which is absolutely nuts. And then it sucks for the rest of that 170 other people who don't get a shot. But it's crazy how that whole business works is to see, like, hey, Christian Casanova came from New England and he could be a top star in the WWE one day. But he, in my opinion, he already is a top star because that's a top talent. That's Christian Casanova. He already made a mark in the Indies.
And then we get the other thing that happens. So obviously, I've done Chris Daniels and Kazarian, and I got them after they got fired from Impact. And so they're in Ring of Honor, and I got Kaz first, did Daniels after before he came to AEW, and so now they're in Ring of Honor. So they were in a big promotion, making decent money.
Right.
More than they would make on the Indies, merchandise opportunity, a lot of other opportunities happen. Then they come back to Ring of Honor, both of them, and obviously they're back on the indie circuit, and then they get back into a new promotion. And there's guys who have left WWE, Simon Gotch. Simon Gotch is killing it right now. I mean,
It's insane.
And so he's doing very well, And then you have guys, and I know I'm about to get controversial because some people like him, some people don't, but TJ Pitt. And I know, we're all adults in the room, everybody. But he was I think he was in Impact, I think, then left, did the cruiserweight stuff. Then he left that, went back on the indies, then went back to Impact, and I think he's taking indie shows at the same time. And it's kind of crazy how people are moving around like that. And it's a crazy world we live in with wrestling.
I don't see the big, honestly, I don't. I mean, yeah, does he make some stupid comments sometimes? But like at the end of the day, TJP is still a fantastic wrestler. He's a great talent. He is one of my favorite wrestlers. But like, yeah, I mean, hey, to each their own, right? If they don't like him, they don't like him. I like him. I have no issues with him.
So my entire thing is that it's so crazy how people come out of WWE and then after 6 months they're free to do whatever they want, and some of them take the advantage of having a WWE name and then rebuild themselves and build out further. And so it's like, you know how you feel bad for those 200 people that got signed in a very short time with WWE. I don't, because I'm like, man, a lot of these people now have that clout associated with them. And then they can say, well, I was in WWE for 2 years. I didn't make it in there. But guess what? I get to now go and I'll go wrestle on a BLP show, and I'm a former WWE superstar. And there you go. And now I can go do a bunch of stuff. Look at Carlito and Chris Masters.
That's very true. That is very true, Andrew. I didn't think about that. I should have thought about that. Duh.
And then they go out and do a bunch of other stuff. They do signings. Look at Kurt Hawkins. I mean, he has Creative Pro, and he's very limited with his bookings because he doesn't need the money. He's obviously signed to Impact.
Right.
But even beyond that, he is very limited with his bookings. And a lot of these people, like, look at Rhino. Rhino ran for either mayor or for like state senator or state representative up in Michigan, and he wanted to do it. And I don't know if he won, but it's even that idea that now look at Matt Morgan. Matt Morgan's the mayor of a city in Florida.
Really?
Look at Kane. Kane's the mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee.
That's so funny. That is crazy. Like to think of Kane as the mayor. I didn't know Matt Morgan was you said it was a governor?
No, Matt Morgan is a mayor of a city in Florida. And it's crazy. And then what's even crazier is apparently Kane is an expert in like Austrian economics, like, which is not Keynesian economics, it's the other. And Kane has spoken at like libertarian events, and it's crazy. And there's like people that I know have taken pictures with Kane. I wish I went to one of those things. So what I asked about Team Hell No, it would have been the funniest thing to do it, because nobody in the audience would have gotten it except like maybe a few people. It would have been like, this is the question to ask at a libertarian event. But he apparently like speaks a lot and does a lot of stuff, and like WWE gave him that opportunity. So it's kind of crazy what happens with people.
Like you said, they take that not. So a lot of people who get released don't need the clout, if I could say the clout. One person I'm gonna bring up is Cody Rhodes. When he got released, man, he was fine. I don't know if he got released or he got fired from WWE, but he was fine.
Cody's story is that he was getting fed up, and he was going to be offered $1 million+ like in his new contract, because he was around forever, and he just wasn't happy because they weren't going to give him a title, they weren't going to put him in a main position, and he was getting fed up with, not the money side of it, but what is my wrestling career going to look like, because I want to get something done in wrestling.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. Wow.
He gave up $1 million like a year or something, or like $3 or $4 million on his contract for like 5 years signed, which is a lot of money.
Holy shit. God damn.
It's a lot
Really?
of money. I mean, he's been very open about that too. That's not a secret.
That's crazy. I mean, look at him now, though. I mean, he's making probably even more than that.
He might or might not be, but I think he has a lot more freedom. And I don't know because he doesn't have ownership, but he probably gets paid as a wrestler and gets paid in an executive fashion, much like Triple H does. So Triple
Hmm.
H has two income streams. Triple H gets a wrestling fee when he was a wrestler, and then when he was doing, something else, he was getting that fee too. And therefore, when you actually look at his salary, and if you go into W, you could actually look at his salary because it has to be this close to shareholding because he is on the board in many ways. He has enough stock. It's actually significant what he is doing. Obviously, he has to pay. And also, there was an article that was released on this a while back, and it's very findable on how much he gets paid and what his breakdown is.
No shit. See, I didn't know. I didn't know I could find that. Now I'm gonna be doing some digging later.
So it's very interesting. And obviously, Cody was legacy, and WWE wants to take care of that because of Dusty.
Right.
So, so,
It's
so
crazy to. It's sorry to interrupt you. It's crazy to think that like, hey, we're gonna give you this much, but we're not gonna give you this. So, boy, what? Come on.
look at the Miz. The Miz is making a lot of money, and he's not
So
taking positions.
I want to
He
bring
doesn't
up
care.
something I saw. He doesn't. I want to bring up something I saw about the Miz, and it pissed me off so much, Andrew. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because you can tell this was posted by a non-wrestling fan, and this is what it said. You could tell the Miz is getting buried by these three pictures. It was him winning the title, him dancing as a bunny, and him being eaten alive by zombies. Yo, but yo, motherfucker, yo. First of all, the Miz is never gonna be buried. The Miz is like, okay, yes, he won the title. Awesome, excellent. Should he held it even longer? I think so, but whatever. That bunny thing was absolutely hilarious. I doubt very much Vince McMahon told him to do that. That was probably all him and John Morrison's idea. That's something I feel like, hey, Vince, we have this idea. Can we do this? Vince said yes. So that was probably their idea. The zombie thing, that's whatever. Like, that's not being buried. Like, The Miz, in my opinion, will never be buried. What do you think?
I don't know. See, I think you know what it is. I think they're doing whatever they want with him because he is again a key player in that he makes the gears move. He gets paid really well. And you know what it is. He's doing what he's doing, and they know how to place him with stars, and they know how to do that thing. Now, personally, I'm not a fan when celebrities come into wrestling.
Neither
And
am I.
I have an issue with it. So I wasn't a fan of Bad Bunny. Now, Bad Bunny can obviously wrestle, but I'm saying to myself, we are artificially hyping up something, and then it's going to go down. And that's how I felt about Ronda Rousey. And people were like, no, Andrew, you're wrong. You're wrong. And then, boom, she left. She hasn't been in the WWE. She wants to come back. But I'm like, we had all this steam for 6 months with her and we had these WrestleMania positions, and then now she has a kid. Good on her. You can do whatever you want. I'm not saying being a mother is a bad thing. You can interpret it again how you want, what I'm saying. But now all that hype left, and then look what happens. Becky leaves, and then Charlotte takes some time off, and now you have the women's division falling apart. The Bella twins are out, and you legitimately have a nightmare women's division in WWE because you took out all three of your key components that made it work. And great, if Ronda wasn't there, somebody else would have stepped up. It would have been made up either in the aggregate or somebody would have stepped up and figured out how to do it. They would have actually created a real story and they would have created the artificial sugar that when Ronda left, great. Now Ronda's going to come back and we're going to repeat the cycle again.
I want to ask you though, like I know you said you weren't a big fan of the celebrities in matches. What were your overall thoughts about Bad Bunny? Because I personally was not looking forward to it at all. I didn't give a shit, but I will admit, I said it 25 times. I'll say it again. He exceeded my expectations. He did very well in that match.
Oh, he did the best out of most. I would say he did pretty good. I think he's arguably in the top five celebrities who entered a wrestling match. And
Top
actually,
five? Who? I want to know who your top five, if you don't mind me asking.
Oh, Tyson was good.
Yeah,
So I enjoyed Tyson. I thought Seth Green was good.
he was all
Uh,
right.
I thought Seth Green was great. Um, Shoot, who else was good? There's been some others. I thought Michael Strahan, even though he worked with the Miz, and I thought
Right.
he was good with his hip toss. And I don't know. Obviously, I'm trying to think of somebody else who was great in this realm because I can't think of a fifth one at the moment. But
I was gonna
Bad Bunny's
say
in the top
if
five because I think those.
if
I
you
think
was
I
gonna
think
say Snooki, I would have ended this show. I've been done.
no, no,
I'm
no. Snooki
done.
was entertaining. I didn't say Snooki was good. Snooki was entertaining with the beautiful people and Robbie E. That thing in Impact was brilliant. Whether it was good wrestling or not is not the point. It was entertaining. It was ridiculous. It was entertaining. Even anything with the Jersey Shore and Impact was good for business, though. It was good for business because I understand why you have to do certain things,
Right.
and Bad Bunny brought a lot of people in, and also WrestleMania was very cheap, and it got a lot of people watching because they were curious, and okay, how's this going to go out? And that's kind of how things go with wrestling and everything in between. So obviously I understand what they're doing. I own WWE stock. I get their company. I
Right.
get I get what they're doing. I don't disagree with what they're doing. I just think that in the short term, because they're not trying to get you and me into it. We were going to watch it anyway.
Right. Of
What they're
course.
trying to do is get the person who is not the wrestling fan saying, Bad Bunny's on. He was just on SNL. And okay, great. That's it. And also they're trying to get people who are Hispanic and Latino and who like that type of music also in there. And they're targeting a demographic. And if you don't know what they're doing, then clearly you're going to probably wind up doing exactly what they want.
Right. No, I don't know about you. This is completely off topic, man. I lost it when he hit that Canadian destroyer on Morrison. Like holy shit. That just me. I know that's really random. I just want to throw that out there.
No, it was very, very cool. It was very impressive what he did, and you could tell that he actually put work into it.
Yes.
Unlike Floyd Mayweather, who came in a WrestleMania, who got paid like 20 million, I think, and like there was no work with Floyd Mayweather versus Big Show, and it just didn't do it. It's at least like with Dennis Rodman. That you could throw Dennis Rodman in there back in the day. At least with Dennis Rodman, there was some work put into that. Whether you think it was good or bad, Dennis Rodman's just crazy, and it made a lot of sense for that too. But at least with Bad Bunny, he put work into it. And also, it's smart that they used Bad Bunny with Damian Priest because Bad Bunny is now sort of out of the picture, and Damian Priest is beyond the Miz,
Right.
sort of at this point. And he got his boost up, which was needed from NXT and into the main roster. And so very, very smart, and they did something right because WrestleMania was a good show.
I agree. I think night one was better than night two. I don't know how you feel, but night one was 100% better than the second night.
I definitely thought night one was better, but I did enjoy that Roman Reigns, Edge, and Daniel Bryan match.
That was a good match. That was a very, very good match.
Now, I do think Daniel Bryan should have won that match because no. Hear me out. And I'm going to make a case for it. Because if Daniel Bryan won that match, it would have made SmackDown. Everybody would have watched SmackDown to see that reaction because nobody would have expected it. Everybody would have been talking about it all week long. And everybody would have been saying, okay, what just happened? What just happened? How did this happen? We need to rewatch this. And the two others, they didn't need to win it. And it would have been a massive rating spike for 3 weeks, and then Roman Reigns should have got the title back. And it would have made a lot of sense for them to do it because it would have been like, oh my God, they just legitimately pulled out the rug from everybody because everybody was saying Edge or Roman Reigns, and all of a sudden Daniel Bryan enters, and you don't need Daniel Bryan to hold the belt for long. You just need it to test Roman and break Roman a little bit so he comes back and crosses a line and like finishes Daniel Bryan and incapacitates him for 6 months. And anyway, his contract is being negotiated anyway, so it would make complete sense just to speed that entire thing up. It
True.
would have been a great exit to cover that entire situation of like a loser leaves title match.
Damn. Well, shit. Look at that. See, I see because I was one of those people that said that Edge or Roman was gonna win. I thought Daniel Bryan was there just to eat the pin. I was like, he's there to eat the pin. Like
Wrong booking
that's it.
completely, because if they did it that way, nobody would have put any money on Daniel Bryan, and it would have been brilliant, and it would have been pulling out the rug for everybody, and you could have done a lot of cool stuff out of that, and you could have actually strengthened Roman tremendously, so that whoever beats Roman now has all that history, and now it's the head of the table entire thing, and if his contract was up, would have made a lot of sense, would have gave WWE a lot of cover, and you can move Daniel Bryan over to Raw in a very different way, or you can move Daniel Bryan down to NXT for a while if you wanted to, not as a demotion, but just to shake things up, and also get Daniel Bryan as a trainer down there more frequently.
What the damn, man, Drew? Shit, I love that. You're hired.
I understand how to move WWE around.
Right.
But enough of WWE. I do want to talk about Nerds of Wrestling. That
Let's
Facebook.
do it, man.
So obviously, I don't know when that group started. I don't know if you founded the group or if you sort of inherited the group. But obviously, 6,000 members, a lot of stuff's going on. Changed the podcast rules when I can post. I try to follow them to the best of my ability. I really do, but I haven't been doing wrestlers in a while. So I have a few wrestlers that I'm probably going to post either Friday or Saturday, right? I I know you can post on Fridays, podcast interviews, right?
Oh, you gotta ask Kelly. I forgot. That all goes back to Kelly. That's mine. Kelly helps me out with that. So, and Dylan helps me out too.
I know Fridays are fair game because it was getting crazy that
Dude,
group. But
it's nuts. People. I get messages galore from this one individual. I'm not gonna say his name. It's like, hey, please approve my post. Please approve my. No. I don't see it. I don't. Like when I shit you not, bro. There's like 200 penny posts a day. It's hard to see whose is where. I say I don't see it, or try posting it again and I'll approve it. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't go through, I'm sorry. I mean, my team didn't see it.
And so how is this even formed? Because obviously I've run groups. My groups are significantly smaller. I have comic buy and sell groups that serve my business purpose.
Right.
In DC, and all it is that it's that you're in a city that has like 2 million people within a 25-mile radius, and well, there's comic book fans. So the group is free posting as long as you're in the DMV area. And most things are approved because, well, if I have a book and you want a book, let's just connect on Facebook and we can either meet in person or we can mail to each other, or things like that. And a lot of people have joined, and I think it's got maybe like 200 people in it, but it serves an economic purpose. Your group is very different than that group that I run. So obviously, how did this entire thing form up? Because it is super interesting. It's a helpful group. A lot of stuff's going on with it. So obviously, a lot of information is exchanged. I post some articles up there too that are fascinating every once in a while when things come across my realm. I post my podcast interviews up there as well for people who want to see that. So how did all this come about?
So back in 2016, I was posting a lot of wrestling, Andrew, on my personal Facebook page, and I mean a lot. It's to the point where I was getting very annoying, and people were like, shut the front door. I don't know if I curse in here.
Oh yeah, you can curse.
They're like, Justin, shut the fuck up, please. Please, bro, this is annoying. So I remember laying down in bed one random night. I was like, what if I just create a group? And I don't know, I'm listening to call it the most generic thing you could think of. WWE fans, boom, was born. I had like 50 members. I thought I made it. I thought everything was going great. And throughout like the first month, I was just posting questions, and everyone is answering. People were being invited, interacting. I'm like, this is lit. So I changed. Someone was like, hey, you should change it to WWE Trivia. So I'm like, all right, bet. So I changed it to WWE Trivia. And then I was like, no, WWE fans is better. So I changed it to that. Then I think I changed it to Nerds of Wrestling for like 1 week. And I was like, I don't like that. Then I changed it back to WWE fans. And I got off it for a very long time. I wasn't paying attention to it. January of 2019, I was like, okay, I really want to do something with this group. I really want just to really pick it up. I changed it back to the name you see right there, Nerds of Wrestling. And Nerds of Wrestling was born, bro. I remember I made a post that said, starting today on whatever day it was, something January 2019, all wrestling all the time, not just WWE. Any wrestling you see, share it. Any wrestler you want to shout out, share it. And it really kind of started taking off. I only had like 300 members at that point, and by like May, I had 500. And Andrew, I was so excited because I had 500 members. I was like, I fucking made it, bro. I fucking made it. I got 500 members. Get on my level. No one can touch me. Let's go. And then I'm looking at all these other groups, 10,000, 8,000, 6,000. I'm like, ooh, I got to step it up. And throughout that 2019, it really kind of started taking off, but there's times where I went on like a hiatus just because like I was just very tired from work. I didn't want to go on. I didn't want to do anything. But 2019 was definitely the best year for Nerds of Wrestling,
See,
100%.
see, I have a very different approach. I am more in the Facebook page approach. I like my Facebook pages. Um, I'm not good at groups. I tried running groups, and I am horrendous at group stuff.
It's a lot.
It's very difficult. I also just don't get it. And obviously I'm building out a group, and I'm being very, very cautious with my group. And I'm also doing it in a different, complete sector for a reason. And there's going to be some other stuff. And it's going to be a very private group for a reason. But yeah, like I like my Facebook page a lot. I mean, I have 4,000 Facebook page likes. Obviously I host on this on my Facebook page, and it's on YouTube, it's on Twitch. I don't get Twitch. I don't get Twitch. Twitch is not my place. I like to play. I like YouTube a lot. I like Facebook. Eventually, all this stuff will get into an RSS feed, which is going to be at the end of this year, like 240 of these, which is
Damn.
crazy collectively in the last 2 years. So obviously, though, groups are fascinating, and groups give a lot of power and a lot of interaction with people. And so obviously it's grown to 6,000 people, and
Right.
a lot of people have connected because of it. And so obviously you become very much a central hub. And I know wrestling is complicated on Facebook. It's very active on Twitter. I am very active on Twitter. During WrestleMania last year, I did like almost 5,000 impressions on Twitter in
Jesus.
a very short amount of time. I think I shot out probably like almost like 15,000 tweets in a week, which is sick if you think
Holy
about
shit. And not really. I know people who shout out like 4,000 in a day, so it's okay.
it. So it's pretty sick what I've done. But I shut out a lot of tweets. I got a lot of interaction. I'm very good on Twitter. And also my Twitter does what it needs to do. But I got other things too that make me money, because I'm not making any money from this show. I'm not making any money from any of my groups. I am making money on eBay though, so that's all that counts.
In due time, manager, you'll start making money on all that stuff. Me too, man. Me too.
I'm not really concerned. In which my theory is that probably it's going to take me another 6 years
Same.
minimum to get to about 500, and then obviously I'm more concerned about building out my library, because that's what I really think matters right now. We're seeing it with what's going on with AT&T, but that's a different discussion. Everything that happened today that affects wrestling in a lot of ways, but that's neither here nor there. So obviously though, then you have What's Up Wrestler is also associated with that. And so how did that start? Because you started way after I started.
Yeah, yeah, dude. So speaking of the interaction part on Facebook groups, I noticed that Nerds of Wrestling at the time, and still does, by the way, had a lot of wrestlers interacting with the fans, and I'm like, what if I do something, every week where a wrestler will just interact with fans? So I, at the time, there was like 5 people helping me run the page. 4 of those people are no longer affiliated with Nerds of Wrestling. Uh, Kelly still is, and shout out to Kelly Hopkins. So I remember I asked my friends, I was like, "Hey, I have this idea. What do you guys think of this?" And I told them, since there's wrestlers interacting with everybody all the time, what do you think of like a discussion thread with the wrestler every week? And they're like, that's a good idea, Justin. Like, holy shit, that's genius. Like, definitely do that. And I'm like, I don't know what to call it. And Kelly, this is what she said, and I quote, I vote What's Up Wrestler. And I was like, What's Up Wrestler? No, think of something else. I literally said, I don't like it. Think of something else. And then I'm thinking to myself, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, What's Up Wrestler? What's Up Wrestler? What's Up Wrestler? That has an amazing tone to it. And I said, Kelly, I love it. She's like, awesome. I was like, I'm taking it. She goes, it's all yours. It's all yours. Take it. I don't care. So Kelly is the person who came up with What's Up Wrestler. So the discussion thread was first. And I'm like, I really want to do a podcast too. January 2020 was the discussion thread. I don't do it anymore just because I'm so busy. I just with the podcast, I forget to ask people, and people are busy. So the discussion thread is like kind of like a random thing where just out of nowhere. But like after the discussion thread, I was like, okay, I really want to do a podcast. And What's Up Wrestler was the podcast name. And last year I started it. My first guest was the victorious BRG, Brett Ryan Gosselin. I'm sure you heard of him. Andrew, if you haven't, then, well, you got to look him up, bro. If you haven't had him, I 100% recommend him as a guest. He's fantastic. So shout out to BRG over there, Brett Ryan Gosselin. Uh, yeah, but like last year, I started doing interview after interview after interview. Last year was a very, very good time to do so because we were just
I
not,
did
we were,
90 in 2020. Up to
huh?
date, I am at about 68 up to this year so far.
68 this year.
Just 68, yeah.
I am up to, before I tell the rest of the story about last year, I'm up to 27. Fucking hell, Andrew. Jesus Christ. You're kicking my ass there. But
I do anywhere from 4 to 6 a week.
there you go.
I do a
So
lot of work, and last year I did 90, and I started in March, Facebook Live, this stuff, and I did 90 in a year, and this year I'm on track to do anywhere from 150 to 180.
Jesus. Yes, and last year, like I said, last year was the perfect time. I wasn't doing anything, but wrestlers were free. They were open to do podcasts. So I'm like, all right, let me do a podcast. I was doing 2 to 3, maybe 4 a day. And I ended last year with 52 regular episodes and 25 bonus episodes. And of course, there podcaster to podcaster, there are some interviews that unfortunately don't make the cut and they're just in the archives and just chilling.
Oh, all of
So
mine, we go live and they hit, and we run with it, and I publish everything.
yeah, no, I all mine were just straight Skype calls, and there's like 3 of them. I'm not gonna say the names, but there's like 3 of them that were like, yeah, I'm not posting this. Archives gone. So all in all, last year I interviewed about 75 people, and I am close to 100 wrestlers altogether, just within a year and a half.
So I'm at the about 158 mark right now.
That's amazing, bro. Holy
It's
shit.
crazy. And then my other show, as I stated, and I don't know if we stated it on air or before, I have
Right.
124 with my other show. Um,
Jesus.
that took about 5 years to do. I got 40 in the backlog that need to be put out there. And I go all over. So obviously, let's talk about that because you brought up a really good point.
Right.
Is that, and I want to get you out of here before AEW starts. So one of the things that is super interesting is obviously last year was an amazing time for interviewing, and shows weren't happening. Everything shut down. My last show was Butch vs. Gore and Primetime Pro Wrestling, which was that FE show that was awesome, and it was streaming, and it was one of the last major shows on IWTV for about 4 months, which is a crazy situation in 2020. So obviously, where do you think all this is going? Because obviously wrestling is now starting to come back, but we all know it's limited seating. Obviously, there's economic detriment. People are not working. People don't want to go back to work. There's a lot of stuff going on in our society, and people don't have as much money as they used to, and we're about to face hyperinflation. And Also, you know what is people? I don't know. I'm not ready to go back outside so quickly. Like I'll go to a mall, but I'm not ready to go to a wrestling event so quickly. No offense to anybody, but like I'm gonna let the dust settle a little bit before I go around and sit around 100 people. I would like a little more space.
Right. Well, I for sure one am ready to go to a wrestling show. I've been to four already within the past, like, since like last September. And I just make sure I maintain my seating, keep my mask on, do what I got to do. I'm actually going to like four more wrestling shows
I
this
mean,
year.
I'm fully vaccinated, and I'm
Me
just
too.
not so gun ho to be around people the same way I was around people, a year and a half ago. I'm
Right.
not ready to jump back in. I'm a big anime fan, I'm a big Comic Con fan, and I'm not ready for that either. No offense, but it's not COVID that I'm scared of anymore. And scared is not the right word, but let's be realistic. Somebody's got a bad cold, everybody's going to get it. And now and con crud is a real thing for me. And I know people who one person has the flu, and you're around 20,000 people at a Comic Con, and Monday morning everybody has the flu, and everybody's in a Facebook group saying, "I got the flu," and you're like, "Great," So it's a real thing, and I think the threat was always there. It's just that COVID has exposed it in a lot
Right.
of ways. I'm not ready to jump back into the fire so quickly. Maybe come next summer, I'll be ready to do it, but I'm going to give it a little bit of time.
That's fair. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I know me and my friends are planning on going to Comic Con in Rhode Island this year. I'm still very skeptical about it. I don't know if I'm gonna go. It's not like
It's a little bit
it's
different though because it's a lot more people. When you're
right,
dealing with 10,000 people, it's different than when you're dealing with 100.
right,
There's more risk with 10,000 people because things can spread a lot quicker with 10,000 people than they can with 100. And also, a Comic Con is not a controlled environment. A wrestling show is.
yes, 100%. And so I don't know. I mean, Mario, if you're listening or watching, sorry, bro. We already talked about this. I'm still very skeptical about Comic Con this year.
And obviously, the big names are very skeptical. San Diego's not happening. New York Comic Con, I don't know what they're going to do, but that's a big con that caters 100,000 people, and I think 100,000 people is a lot bigger of a risk than 1,000 people. I think that is a relatively safe argument to make. Again, we're all adults in the room. You are feel free to disagree with me, but I think any logical, rational human being gets that 1,000 people or 100 people is a lot different scenario than 100,000.
Of course, yeah, no, 100%, bro, 100%.
And so obviously that's just how I feel. I'm just gonna let the dust settle, and also right now I'm just also tightening up my economics in a lot of ways. So that's the other component of it. I'll watch wrestling. I enjoy wrestling,
Of
um,
course,
but I'm tightening up my economics, and you know what it is? I'm not gonna lie. It's sort of a pain in the ass, and also I don't know New England as well as I know DC and that area. So that's also a problem. So I gotta familiarize myself with a bunch of promotions in and around this area. So on that note, that's why I'm also letting the dust settle because I don't know what's even available to me as a wrestling fan. So that's a good reason why I'm not going to shows also.
no, of course. I feel like people don't really have to explain themselves for why they want to go, why they don't want to go.
No. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So anyhow, I
I
do
know,
want to give
bro.
you an opportunity to promote yourself because I got another interview in 10 minutes, back to
Oof,
back. So
you are nuts.
that's going to be a lot of fun. And then, so obviously, where can people find you? Obviously, I think I put the link to the group in
Oh, awesome.
Facebook, and I think I put it on YouTube. Twitch, I don't know how to use Twitch, so if you're watching on Twitch, deal with it because I am horrendous at Twitch. I understand that I am limited in many capacities. Twitch happens to be one of those limitations. It is there for the people who want to see this on Twitch, but YouTube, it's in the description. I think it's in the description on Facebook. And where else can people find you? Because you're all over the place.
All right, so Andrew said I am all over the place. That is absolutely 100% correct. If you really want to interact with me, support me and Nerds of Wrestling, go join Nerds of Wrestling right there, spelled just like that, hosted by yours truly, Justin Del Rio. If you really want to follow me and bother me or stalk me or whatever, or send me some gifts, you could just ask me for my other social media because I have way too much to name.
Yeah, and on that note, obviously, I've been saying it with everybody. I said it last night. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it in another hour from here. You have to support indie. Obviously, the way you go do that is that you follow people on social media, you join groups, you actually obey the rules in the groups, you actually interact with people, you share content. If you're watching, please share this content. It is super, super important. And typically that is the best way how to support people. If people have buy me a coffee, I have one of those things up there. I don't know if you have one of those or you have a Cash App or anything like that. That's another way because it's not cheap to run a podcast. It's not overly expensive, but every dollar helps.
Yeah.
I am completely self-funding this myself, so I don't have sponsors. So yeah, I do it because I want to. It's a hobby for me in a lot of ways. But obviously, I appreciate support. People like my Facebook page, people like in groups that I'm a part of, people sharing my content. It is super, super important, and it actually does make a difference because you might share it in a wrestling group, and then 10 people might actually watch it, and
Right.
then they might like my Facebook page, or they might join a group, and then it spreads, and that's how things happen, especially with internet shows. Organic growth is the way it has to be done. So it is super important to go do that. And on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
Uh, wow. Andrew, I just want to thank you so much for having me on the show today, bro. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, everybody, if you guys really want to support me and Nerds of Wrestling, go join Nerds of Wrestling. I believe Andrew said he added the link in the description below or above or however you're watching. Click that link, join the group, answer the questions, come join Nerds of Wrestling. It is a great group. Andrew, thank you so much for having me on today, man. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being on because obviously I wanted to do something a little bit different, move things around. I got quotas to meet interview wise, and obviously I like talking to people, and I think it is important to actually analyze wrestling from a different side every once in a while because I do speak to a lot of wrestlers, and I do think it is super, super important to analyze it from more of a fan perspective because social media wise, it is super, super, super interesting, and it does play a major role in wrestling. And I'm sure that we could have spoken for the hour just on social media's
Oh,
influence on
dude.
wrestling.
Oh, yeah,
But I will say this,
100%.
obviously go join the group because it is a good group to join, and it's free, which
It's
is
right.
the other thing too. If you have a Facebook account, and if you use Facebook the correct way, which is just use it for groups and not on your personal page, you'll have a much better experience on Facebook. I promise you that. So on that note, I believe that is a wrap.
Yeah. Peace out, nerds.